So I have this little nest egg at J.P. Morgan Chase. It's not a big nest egg. It's not an ostrich nest egg. It's a little nest egg. It's like a partridge nest egg. I don't want to do anything risky with that little partridge nest egg at J.P. Morgan Chase. I have a broker in another investment house who gives me the illusion that I'm swimming with the whales, but really it's quite pathetic. I haven't even gotten into the Facebook IPO. I don't even know, I know what Facebook is, but I'm not on it. When it comes to my checking account at J.P. Morgan Chase, I don't want anything flashy. I don't want to make a lot of money. I just want to know that it's there when I need to pay my bills. It's a bank, for heaven's sake, not a casino. If J.P. Morgan Chase wants to do exotic investing, I'm okay with that, just not with my little nest egg. I want to know that my money is segregated and, if necessary, regulated. And by the way, I don't need my banker at J.P. Morgan Chase to be a whiz investor. I have nothing against whiz investors. I wish some of those were on my side as well. It's just that with regard to the money that I deposit at J.P. Morgan Chase, the person who takes care of my nest egg doesn't need to be a genius of financing. I have much more modest expectations. I don't need someone who graduated at the top of the business school class. Actually, I want my J.P. Morgan Chase banker to be the middle of the class business school graduate, someone who can't understand what all of these top of the class geniuses invent. I want someone who is stable, solid, reliable, who feels responsible to me, and who will try to ensure that my lifelong savings will not be squandered on some derivative credit swap that only the top of the class geniuses understand. When it comes to my little partridge nest egg at J.P. Morgan Chase, I want my banker to relax. I didn't intend it to be invested in a Florida mortgage and then cut up into 1,000 little pieces, bundled and swapped and sold as derivatives to the Iceland National Bank. I'm not saying that I'm against this. If others want to do this, it's fine. I'm simply saying that my expectations for my checking account are really boring and sleepy. So you can imagine my chagrin upon hearing the news that J.P. Morgan Chase lost billions of dollars this week in hedging investments. Didn't even originate here. It all took place in London. The investor who initiated the scheme and who has since been let go has been called the London Whale because of the huge size of the bets that he made in the market. Did you know that about 6 years ago, there was a real whale that swam up the Thames and was also given the name the London Whale? Do you know what happened to that whale? It died. It wandered too far from home. It forgot that whales belong in the sea, not in the river, whose flows of liquidity are much calmer. In the sea, if you're a whale, you can swim with the whales. In the river, the water is fresh, the flows are slow, and the waves are sedate. It's not the place for the excitement of the chase. The London whale forgot that rivers are intended to be boring and tranquil. You want excitement? Go pick on the big fish in the ocean. If you swim where you don't belong, you could die. The London whale, the fishy one, forgot that with all of its size, it wasn't too big to fail. It's true that there were no natural predators in the Thames, but what the whale forgot was that the environment itself was unnatural for whales. It may have been at the top of the food chain in the ocean, but whales don't belong in the tranquil waters of the Thames. The whale's brashness was misplaced, and because it thought that it was too big to fail, it convinced itself that it could use the Thames to chase all the smaller fishies. It thought it could be the chase whale. Why chase the sharks in the ocean if you can chase all the smaller fishes? And the London whale, I'm still talking about the fishy one, I think. The London whale thought that it could conduct this chase day after day, tomorrow as well. By the way, the Yiddish word for tomorrow is morgen. So it probably thought that it could be the Morgan Chase London whale. The London whale disregarded any risk because it believed itself too big to fail, and its recklessness was its demise. In Moby Dick, Melville writes, "What is it? What nameless, inscrutable, unearthly thing is it? What cruel, remorseless emperor commands me that against all natural lovings and longing, I so keep pushing recklessly, making me ready to do what in my proper natural heart I durst not so much as dare? I will have no man in my boat," said Starbuck, "who is not afraid of a whale. Utterly fearless a man is a far more dangerous comrade than a coward." When it comes to my checking account, I don't want an utterly fearless whale hunter. I prefer a coward. In this week's Haftarah portion in Jeremiah, the prophet refers to a person's nest egg in the context of those who are reckless with other people's money. We read, "Like a partridge hatching an egg which she did not lay, so is one who amasses wealth by unregulated means. In the middle of his life it will leave him, and in the end he will be proved a fool." If you acquire wealth unjustly by unregulated means, it is not right, it is not natural. It's like a partridge sitting on a nest egg of another bird. And you will be proved in the end a fool. I have this little partridge nest egg at J.P. Morgan Chase. I don't want a whale sitting on it. And if there is no other way to prevent whales from swimming into unnatural waters, either because they believe themselves too big to fail, or they are ignorant, or because of that chemical reaction in some people's brains when they get excited about money, if there's no other way to prevent the unnatural predicament of a whale sitting on my partridge egg, put up barriers. Regulate the liquidity flow in the river. Make it harder for whales to swim up the Thames. You know, Judaism is not conflicted about money. We acknowledge the healthy appetites of human beings. We are commanded to take pleasure in the world and to delight in the beneficence of God's creations. People should work hard and earn a good living. Moreover, our tradition emphasizes that there are many social problems that can only be solved through affluence, through the accumulation of considerable financial resources. Jews are not attracted to poverty. Poverty is not a virtue. We do not take oaths of poverty. There is nothing inherently noble in poverty. A poor person is not necessarily honorable, and an honorable person is not necessarily poor. For the most part, Judaism considered poverty to be pointless suffering. We do not equate limited financial assets with an abundance of spiritual assets. A full spiritual life is not conditioned on an empty material life. We do not believe in mortification, the denial of our body's needs, and we do not believe in monasticism, the denial of our social needs. Jews do not aspire to deprivation, and we do not feel guilty about financial success. Quite the contrary. We admire people who become prosperous as a result of their own honest efforts. Jewish tradition acknowledges that we are creatures of desire. Rabbinic tradition understands that human beings are driven by passions, and rabbinic tradition understands that our appetites are often more powerful than our convictions. And that is the reason that we believe in regulating behavior. The desire to gain wealth is so powerful that it can distort our thinking. We might convince ourselves of anything. We might even convince ourselves that by moving money around, we're doing God's work. No less. And more. If you have been blessed with affluence, realize first that you have benefited from all the people around you. Don't get too big-headed. Only part of your wealth can be attributed to your own efforts. There were parents who raised you, teachers who taught you, farmers who fed you, police who protected you, political and civic leaders who led you, soldiers who fought your wars, and governments and philanthropists who contributed to your college education. And second, therefore, if you have been blessed with affluence, be generous. Give back. Think not only about valuations, but also about values. Think about the top of the moral line, not only the bottom line. Remember, it's not all about mutual funds. It's also about mutuality. It's not all about bank accounts. It's also about moral accounts and accountability. It's not all about margin calls. It's also about those who are on the margins of life. It's not all about derivatives. It's also about decency. Money has a way of making us selfish and crazy. It could easily distort our values. But remember, we're all in this boat together. The narrator in Moby Dick describes holding the monkey rope for Queequeg, who was in the ocean on the whale's back. The rope was attached to Queequeg's belt and to the narrator's belt. And the narrator describes the situation as follows. For better or for worse, we too were wedded, and should poor Queequeg sink to rise no more, then it should drag me down in his wake. My situation was now merged in a stock company of two. My free will had received a mortal wound, Another's mistake or misfortune might plunge innocent me into unmerited disaster and death. The situation of mine was the precise situation of every mortal that breathes. If your banker breaks, you snap. If your pharmacist, by mistake, sends you poison in your pills, you die. Amen.